You have no authority to shut this gate. My HOA president, Karen Morrison, was screaming into her phone, calling the police because I refused to open my own gate for her 12 guests. The irony, these people had been enjoying my inherited fishing lake as if it were some community picnic spot. I just stood there watching as a few neighbors actually cheered when she said the cops were coming, like I was the unreasonable one. But something about Karen's confidence bothered me. How could she be so sure she had a claim over my 3.2-acre property? Land my grandfather bought back in 1947 with 2 jobs and a lifetime of sweat. And when I pulled the actual land records, everything flipped upside down. Have you ever been bullied by an HOA? Karen wasn't just aggressive, she was extreme. It was 9:30 a.m. I had stepped out to the hardware store for barely 2 hours. When I turned onto Lakeview Drive, I saw thick smoke drifting above the trees, right near my lake. Laughter floated through the air. The relaxed kind of laughter you only hear from people partying on their own property. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I pulled into the driveway and froze. 12 people, coolers full of drinks, foldable chairs everywhere, a loudspeaker blasting classic rock. And in the center of it all, Karen Morrison, arms crossed, standing like she owned the place. I had met her 3 weeks earlier, the day I moved into my late uncle's home. She had shown up uninvited with a clipboard, pretending to be polite while telling me that even though I wasn't technically part of the HOA, I should still follow community expectations. I declined, and today she was hosting a Members' Day celebration on my land. I took out my phone, hit record, and stepped out of my truck. The smell of barbecue, the click of fishing reels, everything was set up like a public event. "Excuse me," I said firmly. "This is private property. I need everyone to leave." No one cared. The music kept playing. The crowd kept eating. Karen finally turned around. Blonde hair in a tight bun, pink cardigan, and that cold, rehearsed smile. "Mr. Brennan," she said loudly, "we were waiting for you. This lake is a shared community amenity." My phone was still recording. "This lake sits on my land," I replied. "You're all trespassing." Karen laughed. "Incorrect. Residents from Lakeview Meadows have been using this lake for years. Just because you inherited the old house doesn't magically make this yours. I've been a real estate attorney for 15 years. People like Karen rely on pressure and crowd politics." "I have documentation," I told her. "Do you?" Her smile faltered. "I don't bring HOA records to weekend gatherings," she snapped, "but they're filed." "Great. Bring them. Until then, everyone leaves." A guy near the grills stepped forward. "Dude, relax. We're just having fun." "My friends," I answered, "this place belongs to me. That's all." Karen lifted her phone. "Fine. I'm calling the police. You're illegally blocking community access." I almost smiled. "Perfect. Let the officer see the trespassing too." 20 minutes later, police arrive. A patrol car stopped near the gate. Deputy Mark Hernandez stepped out, my old high school classmate. Karen ran to him and started waving her arms, talking fast. "Hostile neighbor, blocking our members, refusing community rights." Mark walked to me. "Michael Brennan. Been a long time." "Sorry, Mark," I said. "You got dragged here for nothing." I kept it simple. This 3.2-acre property was bought by my grandfather in 1947. I inherited it 6 months ago. No one has permission to be here. Miss Morrison claims the HOA has access rights, but she has zero paperwork. Mark turned to Karen. "Do you have documents, easements, Anything showing shared access? Her face flushed red. Not with me, but they're filed. Mark looked at the deed on my phone. No easement, no shared access, nothing. Ma'am, he said calmly, until you provide proof, this is private property. Everyone needs to leave. People murmured, folded their chairs, and glared at me. One woman muttered, "All this over a lake?" I didn't react. Karen stood stiff beside her car. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "The whole community stands with me. You're alone." "Funny," I said, "because the deed and my camera stand with me." She got in her car and sped away. I stood near the lake, staring at the mess they left behind. Trash, cigarette butts, torn signs. I pulled out my phone and called Tom Daniels, my closest friend and a brilliant real estate lawyer. "Michael, Saturday morning." "What now?" I looked over the water. "Tom, I think I've made an enemy out of my HOA president, and I'm pretty sure she's planning something." There was a long pause. "You want me to pull county records?" I remembered Karen's absolute confidence when she claimed the lake wasn't mine. "Yes, Tom. Pull everything. Deeds, easements, HOA filings. I need to know what she thinks gives her any right over my land." Tom promised he'd have everything by Monday. I ended the call, staring out at the lake. My grandfather taught me how to fish here when I was 8. He worked 2 jobs to buy this 3.2-acre patch of peace. And now, an HOA president thought she could claim it with paperwork tricks and fake confidence. I locked the old steel gate, hung a fresh private property sign, and sat on my porch with my laptop. I reread Texas Penal Code 30.05. Karen never acted bold without a scheme behind it, and I was going to find it. The next morning, an unmarked envelope was taped to my door. Inside was an HOA letter accusing me of denying community access and threatening legal action. I checked the date on my deed again. 1947. The HOA didn't even exist until the late 80s. I made coffee and watched cars slow roll past my house, drivers staring like I was a criminal. My neighbor Gerald avoided eye contact as he checked his mail. "People are talking," he muttered. "Karen told everyone you threatened families." I clenched my jaw. "That's not what happened. I'm just repeating what she said." Then he walked away. Inside, I spent hours digging through county records. Everything confirmed what I already knew. The lake was fully outside HOA boundaries. No easements, no shared access, nothing. Then I found it. A petition Karen filed 3 years ago to get an easement on my lake. The county had denied it outright. She knew she had no rights, but she never told the neighborhood. Tom called again. "Michael, this is bigger than trespassing." Karen had offered my uncle $15,000 years ago for access rights. He refused. That same amount mysteriously appeared in the HOA budget. Then came the bombshell. Karen had secretly partnered with a developer, Harper Leisure Group, to create a private fishing club. She told them the HOA already had access rights and collected a $200,000 deposit. The HOA didn't know. Harper didn't know. She'd faked documents to make it look legitimate. Karen wasn't protecting community access. She was trying to build a 6-figure personal business on my land. Tom's voice was grim. "When Harper learns the truth, they'll want that money back, and Karen's already spent half of it." I asked Tom to compile everything. Emails, petitions, meeting minutes, proof of fraud. Karen had woven lies for years, and now the threads were coming loose. A text buzzed on my phone. "Back off or you'll regret it. Last warning." No signature. She didn't need one. Screenshot. saved, forwarded to Tom. Wednesday, the HOA ambush. A flyer announced an urgent community meeting about property disputes. Karen listed herself as host and added a county planning office speaker. Tom sighed on the phone. She's trying to control the narrative before you expose her. That evening, I walked into a packed community center. 80 people, folded chairs, whispers everywhere. Karen stood on stage with a county rep, smiling like she owned the room. She spotted me instantly, and her expression iced over. I sat in the back row and hit record on my phone. Karen stepped up to the microphone. "Thank you for coming. Tonight, we'll discuss the unfortunate incident involving Mr. Brennan and our shared lake access." Heads turned toward me. Then the county speaker began a vague speech about implied easements and long-term use. Karen jumped in. "Residents have enjoyed this lake for over a decade. You paid for that amenity. Now Mr. Brennan wants to lock you out and treat you like criminals." She stared directly at me. The room murmured. I kept my face calm, because Karen had no idea what was coming next. And that's where everything finally snapped into place. And where I decided exactly how to end this fight. The county speaker finished his carefully worded, politically safe explanation, and Karen stepped back to the mic with the confidence of someone who thought she'd already won. "Before we move on," she said, "I'd like Mr. Brennan to explain why he believes he can suddenly change decades of community tradition." The room went quiet. Dozens of eyes turned toward me, annoyed, angry, expectant. I stood up slowly. "All right," I said. "Let's talk about facts. Not tradition, not rumors, facts." I walked toward the front, phone still recording. Karen crossed her arms, smirking. I reached the microphone, pulled a thin folder from my jacket, and placed it on the podium. "Tom Daniels," I said, "has been pulling county records since Saturday, and we found something interesting." A ripple went through the crowd. I held up the first page. "This is my grandfather's original deed from 1947. It includes the lake. It always has." I placed another paper on top. "And this," I continued, "is the updated deed under my name. Still no easement, still no shared access, still no HOA rights. Not even a request filed in 77 years. The county speaker shifted uncomfortably. Karen stepped forward, voice sharp. "That doesn't matter. Long-term use gives us implied—" I cut her off. "No, it doesn't. Not when the owner never granted permission. Long-term trespassing doesn't magically become community property." A few people in the crowd nodded. Others frowned, whispering. "And now," I said, pulling out my phone, "the best part." I tapped the screen and projected Karen's threatening text message onto the room's TV. "Back off, or you'll regret it. Last warning." Gasps, silence. Karen's face went white. "That," I said calmly, "is evidence of harassment. And I've already forwarded it to my attorney." Karen lunged toward the stage. "That's taken out of context. You provoked—" But the county speaker raised a hand. "Miss Morrison, we cannot be part of any action based on threats or unfiled claims. If the HOA has no recorded easement, then the lake is Mr. Brennan's sole property." The room began to stir. Voices rose. "So we never had access." She lied. Karen said it was community funded. Is this illegal? Karen's control evaporated instantly. She screamed over the noise. "He's manipulating you. The lake belongs to us." But her own board members were already backing away, whispering among themselves. That was it. The collapse. I stepped back, letting her unravel. Finally, I said, "Meeting's over. The lake is closed to the HOA permanently. The county rep nodded. Legally, he's correct. You must respect his property boundaries. Karen stared at me with fury, betrayal, panic, all mixed into one. You'll pay for this, she hissed. Not this time, I replied. You already did. I walked out while the community argued behind me, Karen shouting to regain control she would never get back. 2 days later, Tom called. Well, he said, the county just opened an investigation into the HOA for fraudulent claims, and Karen's been asked to step down pending review. I looked out at the calm water of my lake, quiet, peaceful, untouched. Good, I said. Maybe now it'll finally belong to the person who actually owns it. And for the first time in months, the lake was mine again.